Welcome again to the Richard and Judy Book Club, exclusive to W.H. Smith. Now, if you're going to read a ghost story this year, make it this one, Dark Matter by Michelle Paver. It's a wonderful, wonderful tale. The trick about a ghost story is you have to, as the reader, be able to suspend your disbelief, because I think most of us don't really believe in ghosts. They don't exist, do they? Well, they do in this book. And the ghost in question comes at the central character, a young man called Jack, very, very slowly as the dark gets darker. And the darkness is very important, Michelle, because this is set in the high Arctic.
That's right.
It's an expedition, a scientific expedition, in 1938, and Jack, who's one of the young men who goes up there, is the radio operator,
right.
the telegraphist. And he's one of the last people to join this expedition because he's at a loose end in London. They get there and it starts fine. The sun's shining. It's actually the land of the midnight sun when they arrive in August. And it's all very jolly at first, isn't it? You write beautifully about the Arctic. I can only assume you've been there many times.
I have. There's something about it that pulls me back. I think it's because it's a place of extremes. You know, as you mentioned, it's the midnight sun, which that's when most people go, and it is absolutely magical.
Is it? I've never been.
It really is, because you stay awake all the time.
Yeah.
So do the seagulls, which keeps you awake. But it is, and all the animals are there, and a lot of the summer part of the expedition, when Jack sees the polar bear who's been eating a walrus and the guillemot chicks and things, that's based on my experiences.
Right.
But I'd always wanted to go back in the polar night,
Right.
when of course it's dark all the time. And dark matter was sort of my excuse, really. And then I spent a week during the polar night. And that, I think, is what transformed the story.
Yeah, definitely. But what, as you know, I've never experienced it. What is it like to spend a week in 24-hour darkness?
Well, the strange thing is it's not completely 24-hour darkness. I mean, I went at the beginning of the polar night when there's this strange thing around about noon. The sun is way below the horizon, but you think it's getting light. You know, you can see, you think, oh, it's dawn. Your brain tells you it's dawn because the sun is trying to get nearer the horizon, and then it gets dark again. And then it depends on whether there's a full moon, and I was there for the full moon, and then you can almost read a newspaper because of the snow glow and things. But then suddenly the clouds come over and cover the moon. So it's very, very eerie because you're so far north that the moon doesn't set. So it's circling all the time, but then suddenly it gets dark.
So, I mean, although the ghost in this story is real, I mean, in terms of it's I love ghost stories, but this is one of the best I've ever read. I mean, it really is. It's fantastic. Terrifying at the end. Psychologically, as you've been there and experienced the polar night, does that actually make you feel, I don't know, a bit more susceptible to eeriness and creepiness?
Tremendously. I mean, because it was Spitsbergen and there are lots of polar bears, as we know, you can't go out on your own, because I like to go out on my own on research trips. But I went with a guide who had a gun and a husky as a sort of early warning system for polar bears, and went in snowshoes on a sort of darkish, cloudy day. I mean, it was dark. Switched off the headlamps because actually, you know, you can see better then because you can sort of make out shades of grey. But it's incredibly easy to believe in ghosts, in evil spirits, because you see what you think is a boulder and then it moves. Is it a reindeer? Is it a polar bear? Is it something else? You know, it's really scary.
You write very delicately and precisely about the transition from endless day into endless dark, and with dates and everything. You know, I mean, the day I forget October or something when the sun doesn't rise.
Yes, that's right. I have to look it up too.
And you won't see it again until what? February, March. It's a long time.
Depending on where you are.
I think we should establish a little bit of plot here. As I say, Jack's a young man at a loose end. His life's reached a dead end, really. War's coming, and he joins these, well, I wouldn't call them hooray Henrys, but they're quite posh lads, aren't they?
They're the 1930s version.
Absolutely right. And as I say, he's the telegraphist, and they go up there and they establish this camp way north of any civilization. They're on their own, and they build a hut. And bad things start to happen to them. Accidents start to befall them.
That's right. It's the sort of classic thing. They've been warned that they shouldn't really be camping up there, but they don't know why. There's the sea captain who's sort of
not happy about leaving them there at all.
Being there. And one by one, I think, without giving anything away, there are 5 men and 8 huskies up there, and one by one, Jack's companions are forced to leave for various reasons. So he does end up shortly after the dark closes in on his own.
He's very proud of that in one way, isn't he? Because he's keeping the expedition alive.
And he's not a hooray Henry, and so he feels he's got something to prove. You know, he's going to be the hero who's going to keep this expedition alive. He's got the dogs with him for company, but of course he's not really alone. And there is this ghost, and the ghost gets stronger as the darkness closes in.
And what's interesting is that you think that he is the only one who is experiencing this, but actually as it emerges, I mean, the others have sensed it too, but they've sort of been, if you like, fortunate enough to be able to leave the island before the ghost gained strength. Just to say that the expedition centre is at the site of an old mine.
Yes.
An old mine.
Yes.
And it's sort of, that's all connected with the ghost. You do say at one point that that men will do anything. Men, if they think that they can get away with it, men in an isolated group like that will do anything. You really believe that?
Well, there is a sense, I mean, just to put it in context, something happened, something awful happened.
In the past.
In the past.
There. And Spitsbergen, Svalbard, to give it its modern name, does have this history of, you know, trapping people, men overwintering, doing strange things, abandoned mines, and it was very lawless. You know, it was a no man's land,
like
until
the
about
Wild West in a sense.
It really was. Nobody owned it. So, I'm afraid I do believe that if the normal rules of society are abandoned, quite a lot of people are capable of doing pretty much anything if the circumstances push them to it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
And if they think they won't be found out.
Absolutely, if they think they won't be found out. I mean, look at the recent riots. There's a very small social example there. I mean, otherwise law-abiding people, many of them, with no criminal convictions, because they thought they could get away with it, safety in numbers, did.
They say, you know, it was a moment of madness, but something happens, that the rules are broken.
Well, there is a moment of dreadful madness in the distant past in this story, and as you say, that is what is connected with the haunting.
Triggers it.
And yet, just interesting to say, I mean, that there is a trapper who actually comes and visits Jack when he's. So men did actually live on their own around the year to trap.
Oh, until I think some still do, for all sorts of reasons. And I know of at least one woman, and they did occasionally get a wife up there for a while. And for all sorts of reasons, sometimes just to see if they could do it, because there was a tremendous mystique about the trappers who wanted there. And I used a lot of, I mean, it was interesting what you said about realism in ghost stories, and I totally agree that the sort of benchmark for me was always to make it, you've got to make the reader feel that I've been to the Arctic, which I have, and also that the expedition is real. Yes. And it's based on a real expedition, which took place in the 1930s.
Really?
And I've used their reports of how they, you know, got their equipment together, and they really did take Crown Derby china up there and champagne for Christmas.
It's interesting. I didn't actually mean that. I mean, you're right. It is very realistically written. It's clear that you've been there. What I actually meant was the gradual materialisation of this dreadful spectre. Yeah. That's the hard bit to pull off, and that's what you've done beautifully, because you believe in it totally. You don't think, no, that couldn't happen, or that wouldn't have exist, or no, ghosts aren't real. In this book, it is very, very real.
Good.
That's a major achievement, I think.
That was really the aim of setting the scene, because then it fools me into thinking the ghost is real, and then I hope.
It's smashing. It's terrifying, but it's absolutely unforgettable.
And I love the huskies.
It's great.
So did I.
Great characters. So that's Dark Matter, a ghost story by Michelle here. It really, really is good. I can't recommend it more highly. And if you want to know more about the book and all the other books in the Richard and Judy collection this time around, you just go to the website. It's whsmith.co.uk/Richard and Judy. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.